Shmulik is there. And beans. So Shafiano. Pizzas, victory, it's our home, we rebuild, sound, it's remaining, and those are.
Couldn't be a better day. Today is 3 days into Elul. And we already took 3 steps. And today, the breakfast is being sponsored by Yoel. We'll cover this Yom Haledes. Should have it plus Hatzloch, bracha, and the Taka Mazel Tov, and it's a hemshich to Kiddush Shabbos. So they should miss and raise his daughter Leah with all the children, the Torah, the Chukma, the Mais and Torah. And also having in mind today, Elul Nishmas Shrage Arya ben Shlomo David Tevel. That's your father's father? It's when I eat a chosed, the gross board, right? Oh, that was his father.
His father came to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone always thinks the Alter Rebbe is very machmir, but there's a few times the Alter Rebbe is very mekel. And one of the times is the Rambam that we just finished, the Shabbos, the Sefer Hafloah, which is the Rambam says it's also to give more tzedakah than the Torah allows you to give, and it's a shaykhs with the Tanya of Shabbos too, and the Alter Rebbe in Befedish and Tanya writes Akula that you could give. Even the Gemara says the Alter Rebbe gives a simple, very very simple thing that if a person went to a doctor, he wouldn't say that you're not allowed to be mavaz with Yosem Achoimish. His life is kol asher. The Alter Rebbe brings a pasuk kol asher leish yitem bad nafshay. So matach barefuas haguf, you go to the doctor and spend everything you have. The kolchkin for the fuas hanefesh bezman hazeh that we need so much in order to work on the tshuva, and tzedakah works in such an unbelievable way. So that's a kula from the Alter Rebbe. So you see, the Alter Rebbe is not always machmir. Alter Rebbe sometimes make. There is in the parsha, it says when if that pasoyach tiftach as yadchala, you should open your hand, and then the two psukim later it says nos and titan loy. When it says nos and titan loy, Rashi says what's the double ocean nos and titan loy? I feel it may have even 100 times. But pasoyach tiftach, Rashi doesn't say that. Rashi just says I feel a kama pa'amim. So the Rebbe asked Pshat, why is it that because Rashi is bothered by the double ocean? So it means you should give him twice? No, it means you should give him 100 times. So why Pasayach Tiftach, it doesn't say 100 times? So Pshat, the Rebbe answers. The first pasuk is talking about your feeling. That you shouldn't, your heart shouldn't get clamped down. You should feel for the oni. You should feel for the poor person. So in feelings, you can't say you should open your heart for him. Open it 100 times. In the heart, it's very hard to say to open it 100 times. Shut 100 times. Open your heart all the way. I feel a kam upon him. But when it talks about giving, nos and titan, you should give. Or giving, you could say 100 times. You could quantify it. And not once, not twice. 100 obviously means also 1,000. 100 is a mispara shalom, but that's what the Rebbe's answer. So someone asked me a shayla Thursday. Someone asked me a shayla. It's funny. The person that asked me shayla once asked me also similar shayla about tzedakah. So it seems that he's about tzedakah and he's helping his friend. His friend is making a chasna for his son. Well, I think it was $20,000 or $30,000. He wants to take a loan, and vice versa, it's hard for him. His credit, whatever it is. So Reuven, who's asking me the question, who wants to help his friend, said that for him it's easy to get a loan. He'll get a loan. So let's round it off at $20,000. That's what Chava needs. So he's going to take a loan for $20,000 from the bank. It's very easy for him. And he said he wants to tell his friend like this: whenever you pay it. I pay the interest. Why? Because he understands. Because he understands several issues. There's a ribis issue. There's a very complicated ribis issue. Right. If he's going to take the loan in his name and the friend is paying interest, that's a terrible, terrible ribis question. And anyway, he wants to help his friend. So he says that,
But who's he paying interest to? He's paying
So
to
he
the
says-
bank, he's paying to a year.
to the bank. He's taking 20,000 from the bank.
But the
He's going to
bank
pay
is
it in
not-
2 years. He's going to pay 22,000. So he tells his friend, you know what? In 2 years, you pay me 20. I'll go to the bank and pay them the 22. Lamazar.
But he's paying
Surrounding
to
it.
the bank, he's paying not to he's paying to a guy.
Yeah, that's why he's a Talmud Chacham. It's a Shalas Chacham. There's no ribis here. There's no ribis because you're allowed to take money from the bank with interest. So he's going to the bank. He's taking 20,000. 2 years later, he's giving them back 22,000. But from the Jew, he's giving the Jew 20. He's taking back 20. Gendik. All the interest he's taking on himself. So l'choyer is no shaila. They allow you here the shaila. So shaila is chacham. Yeah, he took care of the ribus before Moedani. He's fine. His question is, he wants to use the $2,000 from his Maisa money. Is he allowed to use the $2,000 for his Maisa money? It's not like, okay, he's asking a shaila. So the first thing came to mind, well, look, every Moisid has administrative costs. When you give, besides a base Menachem Mendel for a building campaign, where 100 cents on the dollar goes for the actual avoida, but in every Moisid there's administrative costs. So maybe the fundraiser gets 30, 40 cents on the dollar. There's a secretary. There's this. There's that. So there's 20 cents in the dollar goes stuck, and 80 cents goes on administrative costs. Or so that's what I'm saying. Why is it not stuck? Is it not stuck? How should a moisid run their moisid? Here is maybe a little differently because when you give to a moisid, you give them tzedakah. So you gave tzedakah to Beis Knesset, to Beis Medrash. You gave it to a cheder. You gave them tzedakah. Now it's their cheshbon how they want to use the money, and they have the right to hire a secretary. And here's a little different. It's like saying, I'm going to go help for Achnosas Kala. I'm going to dance for the Chosin and Kala. I'm going to help the Chosin and Kala. I'm going to interfere in the Chosin. Am I allowed to take the money from Eisen to pay for the Uber to get there to Mesameach Chosin and Kala? So I'm all of a sudden, when I'm making the question, I'm almost making it sound ridiculous. Like it's obviously, if you're going to a wedding and you're going to eat chicken and you're going to dance and nice, you're Mesameach Chosin, but then no one's going to say that taxi could be for Moaz Maisa. It's a step up. I mean, it's not stam. It's not like he's taking a taxi and so the svara noisenis is that you could use Maisa money, but I just figured let's look into the sugya. But the truth is, the Yid is setting it up in a way because he wants to avoid the Ribis question. So he's saying that there's two different transactions that's happening here. There's me and the bank, and you. It's none of your business. And then there's between me and you. So that avoids any Ribis question. So really, we're looking at it as two separate issues. The 20,000 that the Yid has to pay back to Reuven is nothing to do with the loan that Reuven is taking from the bank. So we're trying to look at it as two different transactions. Reuven is taking from the guy that's helping. Shimon is making a chasna, and Reuven is going to the bank, taking $20,000 and taking it with interest. And he's giving his friend Shimon the money to make the chasna.
So the only way you could do it is like babies.
Right.
No, if Shimon had to pay that.
So that's some from his loan. So why should?
I agree with you. It's a sort of shooter. Let's read a little bit in the sugya. I bet some agree with you. There's not that much lumdus here, but yeah, there is such a thing. There's hanoah. There's a hanoah. There's a certain hanoah that's he's getting the hanoah. Okay, right. So let's read a little bit of Shulchan Aruch. In Shulchan Aruch here today, it's Simulation on Zion, right? The Ramot says, "Misham afrish masaroisov the hilvel oni mishaloi." A person that he gives ma'aser. He's not explaining which ma'aser we're talking about. You might think it probably Shulchan Aruch that I'm also talking about ma'aser ksofim, 10% of your earnings. The hilvel oni mishaloi. And he gave to a poor person alone. Mafrish ma'isa shelo yemachashav al zeh shehil v'la'oni or ma'ag. Huh? Yeah, from his money. He gave money from his pocket, not from his ma'isa. No, not from his ma'isa. Mafrish ma'isa shaloi. Later, he could, when he goes and he puts aside from his ma'isa, he could take that. So say he gives the oni needs to make a chasna. He gives him $20,000. Right now, he doesn't have stock to give $20,000. He gives him 20. And then every month he has for the next 4 months he has $5,000 of Meiser money to give. So he gives the 5, he gives it back to himself. The other 5, and after 4 months he tells the Oni, okay, that's it. Your chayv is paid up. So he says v'davki shani shel v'la dayin chai avali meis in the sasher and tzarich l'shal sherei oni oyer ba'isasho. The deal was never that he's going to pay back. So when he's alive, so he has a certain chiyuv. When he passes away, so who are you paying? You're paying who's chayv?
So he paid himself. He gave the himself. Now he paid himself from the master. So he doesn't have that money before for the master.
No. The Shulchan Aruch says not. You can't. Ve'im afrishnen alov. Ve'im lochrush.
עד שהילמה לעני, ומעקב לעצמו מה שיש.
Right? So he says, "V'davka shoni shilva la'adayin chai."
And give the army $20,000. Now, I pass in my gift. So every month I give myself $5,000.
Right.
So then, that money is come from my master, because I can end it with the beginning. So I give you, I send from the master, and there are a master, and
Right? So it's a pella. But Shulchan Aruch says, if the Oni died,
well, that's only that other thing.
right, that's the next thing. If the Oni died,
you give a loan for later. Then you want to take from your own life.
this is the sugya. This is the sugya.
What's the case about?
He gave the Oni $20,000 as a loan. And now every month he's taking his ma'aser, $5,000. He's being mafresh ma'aser, and he's giving it back to himself. He's paying the Oni's loan to himself. He's using his ma'aser money to pay the loan back to himself. That's
Which doesn't say
so that's how we learned the Gemara.
said you have to pay me, and just that he pays himself.
Right.
Or they said, okay, it's your money.
No. So that's it. So let's read the Gemara. Let's read the Gemara a little bit, then you'll see. Hey, that's no problem. The Oni gets rich and pays it back. It seems that the deal was that he never really demanded the money back from the Oni.
What's the point?
He never. So yeah, but you have to when you're mafresh ma'aser, it has to be an achoiv that's on you right now. So since you gave it and now he's an oshir, so he's not mechuyev to pay you back because you never told him he has to pay you back, and you are being mafresh in order to pay back a loan that's really it's a funny loan. You can't take him to Bezdin to pay you back. You never made a contract with him. He has to pay you back. Lidach, you're going to be mafresh now $5,000 for him, but he's not an osher. He's not an oni, so you're stuck. That's what Shulchan Aruch is saying. You're stuck now. Had you told the oni you must pay me back, he's tzachoyv. You then he would have to pay you this loan. Yeah, because he never. If he told the oni you must pay me back, then the oni. But this talking in a case where he didn't tell the oni that. He gave it to him, and in his mind he's saying, "Oh, he's the oni, so it's all in his own mind."
He wasn't going to say here's $20,000.
In his mind, he said, "Right." That's what's talking about. If he told the guy that you're mechuyev to pay me back, obviously mechuyev. Then later, if he became rich, he has to pay back. He can still not take the ma'aser money from him, but the guy would have to pay back.
Why does he have to give my money?
Because the chiva ma'aser, it's two different things. That you can't before
So let's say I'm giving to you as a gift, and if you can pay me back, pay me back.
but then you can't compute it off your
Can't take it
future mindset. No, that's
So
there has to you have to have look. Yeah, that's why the person gave it as a loan.
But here you have to do different. Like this, when I pay on loan, I really have to spend another thing.
Wait for this case. Wait for this case. Wait for this case. Let's think about it. Zok the Gemara. Zok the Gemara. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the Gemara. The Gemara was the first piece. Sorry. Hamal v'mos es hakoyin v'salevi v'soni. The person gives a loan to the koyin, the levi, the oni, at least mafresh alem achelku. This is a mission in Gittin Daf Lamed Amud Aleph. Mafresh alem b'heches kashem kayom. He gave to the koyin, the levi, the oni. So he's thinking that he's going to later take the trumas. Instead of giving it to the koyin, he's going to sell the truma. Now, when you see this, and he'll pay himself. And the levi, he's going to sell the ma'aser. And again, the trumas ma'aser, he'll also, but when you sell truma, always you're selling it at a discount. Who wants to buy truma?
Only a coin.
No, only a kohen. And even a kohen, who wants to have the headache of the, has to be eaten the Torah.
He sells for cheap. So
For cheap, right? That's what I'm saying. He has to sell it at a discount. Okay, again. Amal v'mos a kohen, v'salevi v'zon lis mafresh machelke mafresh lamachets kashem kayomen. Then he's mafresh, and he could assume they're alive. Ein chosh Hashem a meis, a kohen or a levi or hesher or oni a meis or oni. Meisu, if they taka passed away, tzarech litul rishus min hayorshim. He has to take because the yorshim could say it's not our choiv. But if the yorshim say we're responsible for the choiv, so okay, so they're kohenim and they take upon themselves responsibility to pay back the choiv. So now he can take from the trumas and sell it. If he did it in front of bezin, because the bezin made as if it's a condition that even if the person passes away, that it's the choiv is on the other kohenim, and therefore he could sell the truma from the other kohenim. How could you give? What do you mean you're giving truma and ma'aseres? You didn't give it to the hand of the kohen. Before you gave it, this truma, the Eibusha says you have to give it to the kohen. You didn't give it to the kohen. You went and you sold it. So the loyal saliyoda. If you gave it to the kohen, the truma, and the kohen takes the truma and says, "Oh, thank you very much," and gives it back to you as a payment for his loan. So you gave the truma, and then you sold it. But here, you never gave the truma. It says you have to give it. You have to give it. The Gemara answers. No, the Gemara asks. It's talking about that this Kohen is his friend. All the other Kohanim know that he gives to this Kohen. So no one is even thinking of it. And because he always give it to this Kohen, it's as if he already gave it to the Kohen, and now he's selling it. Shmuel Amar, no, the Mazakal Yidei Achedim. What's talking about Itaka? He this Kohen owes him whatever sum of money.
And that's also because that's our money. But the our money makes the our money. There's always to go ahead and get from him to other one. That's
No, but the second answer, we're talking about the Mizakal Yedei Achedim.
Yeah.
That the Kohen owes me $10,000. So I take a package of Truma and I give it to Sason, and Sason picks it up, and he was Mizakit for that Kohen. So now it's as if I gave the Kohen the Truma, and then Sason gives me back the package of Truma. That's the second answer. Ula Omar, Homani Rabbi Yosi. This is Rabbi Yosi. The Omar also she'ena zoiche kezoiche. That they made that the person that was not zoiche as if he was zoiche. So the Chachamim had the right to do that. Chachamim had the right to do that. Okay. So now let's read quickly Shulchan Aruch. Because the Ramah Mishum Afrish Masaretz V'Hilval Oni. The Ramah is translating it to Maisa of giving money to an Oni. Mishmafrish Machashav al Shehilval Oni Ma'akav Latzon Shehifrish V'Davka Shoni Shehilval Adayin Chai. V'Li Mason Esacher Ein Tzarach V'Shalom Shenoni B'Yis Hashem and Mafrish of the Mafrish of Ovid V'Loch Hashem Esacher B'Yedua. The Shach says v'tzorich lezakas laoni al yedei acher. You have to give the money to someone else to pick up, that the oni is zoiche. Achach hifru mimenu choyve kedei lakayim mitzvahs not on titim. V'rog lipul lezer, it's a b'chol makir tuna. Ve'elevi ve'in tzarech. Hinkas sefer atruma, ve'arambam, l'choyre say kosher, the ho b'shas so pedek kol get gitten da flamet mishani ulo amani Rabbi Yossi da ma also sheine zoiche gezoiche. Vim kein lefi zein tzarech lezakas leklal. Lehilcha zakayim lan Rabbi Yossi kedaposik shmul gufe bepedek kamed above metzia daf yud beis. וזה אפשר שזהו דס הרב שקוסו בסתם שיוכל להפרש שלו לא יביע שצורך ליסקס על ידי אחר. He says maybe Taka, that's why the Ramo says that you could do it, and he didn't say that you have to give the package or money to someone else to pick up. The Pischei Tshuva says I'm benoit bihuda tinyona siman kuf tzadik tesh shekos of them et chiluk shilvola oni, that if he gave it as a loan lo hilvala das gain, and he never had in mind that he's going to pay himself back, uplukta da meirov Yerushalmi the gitim v'chli kirbzeida the yochel ha'afri shalem. The Rishami has a machloikas. What happens? I gave him a loan, and he's not paying me back. He said, you know what? Let me just pay myself back for my Maisa money. So machloikas if you're allowed to do it. And Noida Yehuda says the halacha is like Reb Zeir who's mekel. He says you could. But he has to ask the oni. וגם דווקא אם בלאו הכי או ינויסן גם כנויסן המייסה לזה העוני. וכפי אויסה אוימד יחשב עתה על חלקה ולא יויסן. And the Tshuva Noida Yehuda says, if you let people do it, no one's ever going to get tzedakah. He says a lot of rich people that I know in Prague, that the aniyim owe them azoif, and they have books, femveni. They have, like remember the store, the grocery stores, when they used to, up to the face, they used to write it down. So he said, all the ashirim are never going to give tzedakah, because if they see the oni's not buying, they're going to take all their. So he says, you can only give. What would you give to this oni? Stamazo, if the oni approached you and asked you for money, how much would you give him? That's the amount you can deduct from the bill that he owes you. So that's a Noida B'Yehuda. Okay, the Meishiv Dover has a Moedik Chidush. I wanted to get to the Meishiv Dover. Nira la nius daiti. Dafka v'hane de ksiv nesina. De bina matona mamish. U'paro in choy v'lakay mitzvahs nesina. But b'maisek sofim to lo nisker betoyed ela beremez v'kedisa b'yirishal mekabed as Hashem ha'hoincha. Oim de ksiv aser b'shvil t'shidis asher. Kamoy she'evi atoyses v'nsechas tanim medrish tchum parshas rei. The amir lo ksiv lo shematona. Ve'in tzorech ela lahasnes lahonis laniya maisek sofim. He has a Moedik Chidush. Says this whole sugya in the Gemara is talking about when you're giving truma, meiser oni. So then you have to give it first to the Kohen, to the Levi, and to Yisrael. You have to give it to him. And the whole machlokas, and maybe the Chacham said it's as if you gave it to him. And maybe lechatchil you have to, before you give him the loan, you have to tell him it's that. And maybe we can make it even later. But he says when it comes to Maisek Sofim, it's very different. Why? Tzedakah, the Torah says you have to nosan tite. You have to give tzedakah. So tzedakah has to come out of your pocket. You have to take $1 out of your pocket, and nosan tite loy. It has to get out of your hand into his hand. And if it didn't go out of your hand into his hand, there was no tzedakah. So taka, for example, according to the Meishiv Dover, a person has to give 1/3 of a shekel a year, and in lav loikia mitzvah tzedakah. So according to the Meishiv Dover, that tzedakah that you give, which is 1/4 shekel, it's not that much, has to be that it went out of nosan titein loy. You have to go take the $1 and you have to put it in the oni's hand. But when it talks about Maisek Sofim, the Torah didn't say nosan titein loy. The Torah said maser b'shvil shetes asher. Give 10% of your earnings and you'll become rich. That's what the Torah says. Give 10% of your earnings and you'll become rich. The Torah never says nosoin titein loy. It doesn't have to go out of your hand, and it doesn't have to go into his hand. It doesn't have to. And therefore, and furthermore, he says the ikar of Maisek Sofim, when it is to be mahana, like he says, for example, a shul, you're allowed to bring candles to the shul from your Maisa money. So, and you're allowed to do. We paskin. That's the way we pass in the shach in the beginning of Simon in the Yoreh Day Semereshim test, that you could do mitzvahs like chos and kal, svarim, and sandik, and chos and kala to be machnas chos and kala lechupa. So, well, I'm not talking about his own. He's talking for his friend. I'm talking for his friend. So now, so this is the chiddush of the Meishav Davar. Again, the Netziv is saying a beautiful chiddush. He's saying that why did in the Gemara there seems to be a discussion in the Yerushalmi, in the Bible, you have to tell the Oni Machatchila, you don't have to tell it to Machatchila, you have to be mazaket to someone else or not. He says, nah, this whole discussion was only by Truma, Meiser, Maisa Oni. When it comes to Meiser Ksofim, there's a two dinim. The tzedakah has to go from a hand to a hand. Nosan titein loy.
What's my
From
again?
10% of your earnings of the that you give for tzedakah, the Torah says, I want you to give it because I want you to become rich. The Eibishter wants Jews to be rich, and the Rebbe Shalom knows the secret how Jews become rich. People don't know how to become rich.
10%.
How do the people? By giving the 10%, the Torah says, I want you to be rich, so therefore I want you to give 10% to tzedakah. But over there, the Torah doesn't say nosan titein loy, so therefore it doesn't have to be nosan titein loy. It doesn't have to be miyad liyad. Very simple. That's his chiddush, and that's what the Ramah never says any condition that you have to make a tanai with the oni l'chatchila. Maybe you should be mezaket to someone else, or maybe it's kila chachamim or mezaket. No, because this is ma'aser ksofim that I'm always talking about, not ma'aser oni or ma'aser levi or truma. Okay, now, so this is a beautiful chiddush, and again, the not tzedakah has to be miyad liyad, not some titen loy. But ma'aser ksofim, the Eibishter gives you the secret and encourages you and tells you that I want you to give 10% of your earnings. This way you're going to become rich.
You better not make shaliach to give tzedakah.
To make shliach. You don't have to make even a shliach. As long as you're mahana the oni from your ma'aser ksofim, that's good enough. So same thing in our shaila. First of all, in our shaila, the person is taking money out of his pocket and giving it. He's just not giving it. He's not giving it to the chosn and kala. He is opening his wallet and taking $20,000. I'm sorry, $2,000 out of his wallet. He's just not giving it to the chosn and kala. So could be if it was betoida tzedakah. So could be you'd say you have to give nosan litin loy. You have to give it to the oni. And most chosn and kala are aniyim too today. Yeshiva bocher. So the fact that the parents are paying for it's nothing. But
If you give most of those to a shul, is that considered giving?
It's considered that's tzedakah necessarily, but that's considered ma'aser ksofim. Yes, you're allowed to use them. So therefore, in our case, even if you're saying that he's not giving it into the hand of the chosn v'kala, but we paskin like the shach that you're allowed to use 10% of your ma'aser for bringing in a chosn v'kala to the chuppah. And there's no question that this $2,000 is bringing the chosn and kala into the chuppah. Well, how is the chasna going to happen today? No chasna is happening in the backyard of a house.
They want big chasna. They want fancy one. I'm not.
Right. Unfortunately, that the Rebbe, there's a lot of letters from the Rebbe. The Rebbe says it's a terrible thing, that there's all kinds of things that are being ma'akev, chosn and kala for going to chuppah. Some places they have a meaning that the parents have to promise to have for the children a dida, and some places that the father-in-law is going to support the son-in-law for a few years, and Achman al-Islam, if not, the shidduch is being held up. And even if the chasna itself, that there has to be a fancy chasna, and if the parents don't show up with the money, then the chasna is not happening. But the poil, that's
Just broke shidduch right now. It's not supposed to be 22nd. The parent took the board they want $120,000. What? Yes. He's the manager, by the way. I'm not talking about Shah. Okay.
no.
Already driving, last year. And
Oh yeah.
he was already at the last minute. Friday it broke up.
Oh yeah. So the
Get such a policy go like that, and a creation like that, better somebody else.
anyway, bottom line, then I can't be Lubavitch at Sidon. They're not listening to Lubavitch at Rebbe.
What's your talk?
I said facts.
Okay, so the bottom line is, I think it's a davar pashut that this is a very nice way of helping a chosn and kala. As I said, there's no ribus issue here because And that's nice and clean, taken care of. Even though he's not giving it in the hand of the chosn and kala, this is not betoides tzedakah. It's betoides ma'asek sofim, and doesn't say nosen titin. And definitely, this is a very good way of using the his money that it was mafresh for ma'asek.
And he did it. How about us, the other guy for that money to pay Ribis, that for himself. And now he's maybe we're taking away the Ribis from him. Doesn't mean that there was a Ribis.
I don't want to go there.
It's a document.
I don't want to go there. This is simpler.
That's what he said. So,
Right. I want to say, yeah, I don't want to go. Okay. There's a story in Tanakh. I want to talk about the granola. Huh? And but then they're paying also principals. That's okay. Principal. You're saying that's yesh b'klal Mosayim. True, but I'd say the interest is Metoda Tzedakah. You could ask a shayla, but Ma'asek Sofim, I think it's a double border that it works for Ma'asek Sofim. I haven't stock yet, so that's a third of a shekel a year you have to give to make sure you did the mitzvah of stock. It's not that bad. Okay.
Give a guy $1, that helps.
Towards that, $1 is not a third of a shekel. A third of a shekel maybe today is I don't know. I don't know what a shekel is. How much is a shekel? Yeah, a third of a shekel. Yeah. I don't know. Even that. I don't know how much money it is to make a cheshbon. Maybe $50. Right. The cheshbon. Okay. I want to talk about Bimasakim at the end of the summer. We're talking about granola this summer and the Chanan Shir. I went into the computer and I wanted to know what's rifos, because I'll explain soon. It's a critical thing that the Alter Rebbe brings a raya to the Rambam. Rifos is a thing that they used to cook in the days of the Tanakh and the days of the Shas. Rifos shel sa'oidim, it's mentioned in the Shas.
Not today.
It's a certain dish. Rifos shel sa'oidim, a certain type of a porridge, certain type of kasha. So I said, you know what? Let me just do a search on the word rifos and see what you find in the Tanakh. So I found that there's 2 stories in the Tanakh that have rifos in it. And yeah. You'll see soon. You'll see it inside. So one story in the Tanakh is about David the Melech. Avshalom, we learned yesterday in the Pirkei Avos, Achitophel was a backstabber. In the outside, Achitophel looked like a big Talmid Chacham and a loyal advisor to David the Melech. But really, Chazal say he was a big Rasha, and he was a backstabber. He convinced similar to that, and he convinced and he was advisor to Avshalom of how to overturn his father to kill David the Melech and take over the kingdom. So the first thing is when David the Melech runs away from Yerushalayim with his men, so he tells him, he gives him all kinds of like crazy advice, but first he listens to him. He says, all the pilakshim of your father, you should make a big tent and you should sleep with them. The people will know that it's business. And he does it, and because Achitophel was very shrewd, he knew. And then he told him, "I'll tell you, tonight is the night you got to strike. Send your men and find where David the Melech is. Surround them, as if the war is going on, but tell them not to kill anyone, not to kill a single person, only to kill David the Melech. And as soon as the war is supposedly over, I will come." I will bring all David the Melech's men to you on a silver platter. They're going to become your servants immediately. Achitophel knew what he was doing.
You know, by the way, his name is Achitophel. Achit, like my brother. It was so nice. Tophel is the bad one. In Hebrew, Tophel is because
They mentioned something in Ein Yaakov.
So what happened was that there was a loyal advisor, Hushia Arki, and he was on the side of David the Melech, and he realized that if they follow Avshalom's advice, that's it. It's all over. So he told Avshalom that this is a terrible advice. Your father today is like a beer in a. Today is the worst day to attack him. Give it a few days. So, and Avshalom listened because Mesa Shem Zois that the Eibishter wanted to, because David the Melech was supposed to live. So he accepted the advice of Chushia Arki. As soon as Avshalom saw that he accepted the advice of Chushia Arki, he didn't say anything. He didn't complain. He just went home. He wrote a will. He choked himself and he buried himself. Yeah, and
He didn't write himself?
he choked himself. That's what it said. He choked himself. He knew that was it. He was shrewd. He knew that that's it. If Avshalom didn't follow his advice, it was finished. It was done. He didn't even, like in Tanakh, it doesn't like he didn't say Avshalom, hey, he didn't want to waste any time. He saw where the wind is blowing. He went home. He killed himself. Finished. Huh? You want to send the story to the
wife?
Yeah, you want to send the story in the Tanakh? After the story, you'll put ... So that was it. Now, Chushia Arki gave to two people, Achimetz and Yonasan, and that they should go tell David the Melech everything that's going on. The people of Avshalom were running after them. They ran into a courtyard, and there was a woman there. And the woman told them, go quickly, run into the Be'er. She had a Be'er where there's water, and she covered the Be'er, and she did something. She covered the Be'er, and she hid them there. It says, Vatikach ha'isha vatifres ha'mosach ha'pnei ha'be'er, vatishtach elav ha'rifas v'loi noida dova. She put the rifas there. So, the Medrashim, if you look on the page, there's one of the Meforshim that bring the Medrash Chazal. That's wild. That what did she do? Vatishtach elav ha'rifas, she decided she'd take a suntan. She smeared a lotion that she bought in Walgreens, and she took off her tichel or her sheitel, and she spread it, the rifas are here, she spread out her hair, as if she's taking a suntan on the be'er. It's not Fruma Yidden, even though they're busy killing people, but Fruma Yidden zayin zedach, and they run into the courtyard, and they see a woman sitting there, they ran out. Such a thing. They forgot that they can't. The woman here like this, not sneeze. Her hair is uncovered.
These guys will send on
Avshalom. It's got from a Yidden. So they were going because these were the messengers to tell the Melech what's going on. So the Medrash says that the grandchildren of this woman was Esther Amalka and Mordechai Yehudi. That's why it's been Shimi ben Kish, and that the Ishimini, that the wife of Shimi is the one that was this woman. That was a big yichus. That she was the woman that saved these two men that were later brought the message to David the Melech.
She was related to Shon.
It's just like the story with Kollel. Exactly. Like the wife of Oim ben Peles.
She was related to Shon.
Huh?
She was related to Kollel.
Right, I guess. So
But I mean, they're related to.
it's medrash. I don't know.
It would be really incredible in her to do that.
So the Meforshim, all the Pashtonim, Rashi, the Metzudas, they say that what it means is that the rifis is wheat or barley, dogon, that they take off the shell and then they put it out under the sun to dry it. They take off the shell and they put it out under the sun to dry it. And they all bring an ayah from the pasuk in Mishlei. Im tichtish es evil b'machtish b'toich harifas be'eli loisosur me'elov ivaltei. That a fool only looks at the crust of what happens. A fool doesn't look at the pneumius of a story. If you're going to take a fool and put him under machteshes, and you'll take all the peel off of him, you'll take the klippe off him, he's still a fool. A fool is a fool is a fool, so there's helfen. Im tichtish, you're going to squeeze him, you're going to take off the peel. You think a shen hamna bisel seichel. In other words, you take off the peel of the story. The fool never realizes the pneumius of the story. You know, he looks at the world, he sees everything on the outside. But what's the inside of everything? Why is my neshama in this world? Why is this happening? He looks always on the outside, on the crust. But even if you're going to peel off you'll peel off the outer layers and you'll show him he's a fool and he doesn't look. He's a fool and he stays a fool. So rifos means wheat or barley that they took off the cover, and then she went and she spread it over the be'er, so the sun should dry it. So that's the pshat rifos. So now we know that the Alter Rebbe brought a ayah to the Rambam that the grains don't have to know, not only the grains that are chopped in half, also grains that are not chopped in half. If you took off the peel and you cooked it, if you took off the peel and you cooked it, it's good enough. And that's called ripashal sa'odim, and that's also part of Ma'aseh Kedera. Even though when the Gemara says Ma'aseh Kedera, the Gemara talks about the Gemara says kilka targi zars and arson, which is chitim that were broken lamechza l'shlish, and it sounds like most of the dice of the kasha that people used to eat was grain that was broken up. But because we find in Tanakh and also in the Shas at Rifat shall say Oidim, for example, so Alter Rebbe says that not only when the grain is broken into pieces, but also the grain that is whole, that if you cook it, also the grain that is whole, if you cook it, that's it's mezoinus. That's already mezoinus. That it goes up to being mezoinus, even if it was cooked. In other words, just the fact that you took off the peel and you cooked it. Let's read it inside the Alter Rebbe quickly. Which this is daisa. This is b'chol makom. Whenever the Gemara says daisa, it means a grain that was cut into half. So this is what I wanted to bring you at ayah. That rifas shel sa'odim means that it was loinechlak, but just that you took off the klipa. That's the word rifas is grains that they took off the klipa. But the other opinion says but the Alter Rebbe seems to pass on the first opinion, because the Alter Rebbe continues, if it was complete, they never took off the klipa, and not only that, if you cooked it, it never got melted. If it got melted, so even though you didn't take off the klipa, it would be as good as if you take off the klipa. So therefore, Mashra from the Alter Rebbe, that if it was already Hosek Lipasa, he would have said that it's Beidem in a Mezainas. Why? When we say that Eretz Yisrael is a land of the 5 special grains, it meant when the grains were cooked in the derech ha'achila. However, yesh mistapkim baza, that even when the grains have the bracha beide pri adama im lavorach achar of beide nefoshes, oy me'en gimel, I explained when we learned it that the suffix was that the Rabbeinu Tam said that when you make a bracha beide pri adama, afterwards, if it's from the fine grain, maybe you should make the bracha al adama val pri adama. But we don't find in the Shas such a bracha, it's a suffix. Suffix ze oimrim shein lechel memenu kashir kim betoich hasuda. And they say that such a grain that's adama, you should only eat it if it's in the suda. But noch in lochish l'devrein lechatchila, in chatchila you should be choishish for them. Avalim eira she'ech she'achal she'lebetech hasuda, ivarach be'er nefashos rabbis shebeka be'er nefashos. So there's the grains, the 5 grains, in order for it to get picked up, to be vitamin and mazoinus, it has to be the machloikis. But it seems to me that the Alter Rebbe Paschal is like the Rambam, that as long as you took off the peel and you cooked it, if you took off the peel and you cooked it, it's already boida minimum zaynas. That's why in the shir that we gave 2-3 weeks ago, on Monday night, I was saying that lanius daiti that most of the barley that we use today in the store is pearl barley. Pearl barley means that they take off the peel and then what the company polishes it. What does it mean they polish it? They take off a little more of the actual. Because they want it to be. They take off the amalan, right? They take off So I mentioned that so it's for surely Mazonis. Why? Because the Mishnah Berurah brings that there is a svara from Chaim Tzanzer that the fact that they polished, they took it off, so it's as if they broke it in half. And if you break it in half, maybe l'chol hadayis, if you cook it, they don't have to get glued together. So the Mishnah Berurah says that some of the realize that makes Mazonis is fine. But I would say that the Alter Rebbe, because the Alter Rebbe brings a raya to the Rambam, he seems to pass on like the Rambam. Is if you take off the peel and you cook it, is already mazonis, even though they didn't get glued. So now it's not better. Now that the barley that we used is pearl barley stuff, and not only they took off the peel, but they actually polish it. They take off a little bit of the. So any time you cook barley, it even if it's not glued together, it's loin nismach, loin nisdabek, then the bracha is mazonis. The problem is that we spoke about then. And I still didn't figure out. I'm looking at different companies. We spoke about granola. So the problem with granola is the companies don't tell you so much how they make it. So it seems that most companies, the way they make the granola is that they put it in the oven. They don't cook it in water. And you see from the Alter Rebbe very clearly that it has to be cooked in. It says bishli b'mayim oy b'shar mashkem. It seems that the Alter Rebbe holds that it has to be mamish cooked. If it was baked, roasted, it doesn't go up to the bracha mazonis. Why? Because in the time of the Shas, we find all the time in the Gemara when you want to give kids snacks. So what do you give them? Kloyas ve'goizen. Kloyas ve'goizen. Oh, when to talk about giving children snacks, it's kloyas ve'goizen. That was the snacks they had. If you went to own nuts in the Yerushalayim 2,000 years ago, they didn't sell all these candies with all this v'chulu with sugar and
candies.
They sold kloyas ve'goizim, nuts. They had a lot of different type of nuts, and also the grains. They would take the grains, they would roast it, and then they would. That was it. That was a snack.
Just like that.
Because that's a snack, it's not the cheshivas of boidim in mazonis. It has the bracha of adama. So the problem is that it seems from the things that I'm reading that most companies that are making today granola bars are roasting it and baking it in the oven. So therefore, the bracha is adama. The problem is that they're gluing it together with sugar. Yeah, they're gluing it together with sugar. And or corn syrup, whatever.
Why you say it's healthy?
Yeah, you think it'll be healthy?
Lefi erech. No, lefi erech kokosh cake. It's healthier. Lefi erech kokosh cake that has besides the sugar, margarine. Shmulik, because it doesn't have margarine. Sugar is nicht the extra Sache in the Welt. Sugar is not the biggest menace.
Natural sugar is good.
Natural sugar is nicht gefährlich. And a lot of the sugar that we use is not bad. They're pretty good. They're cane sugar. And it's nicht gefährlich. Mashenkin, the kokosh cake, is having inside of it a Crisco, which is
That's an oil? It's an oil?
It's an oil? It's an oil, but it's not a natural oil. And they say it's very bad for the arteries. Mashenkin here, it's not like, but still it's better. So the granola bar, you're eating chameshes minei doga, and you're eating a spoonful of sugar inside, and maybe they put in some paytas or some chocolate or whatever they put inside. So because they're baked together, and the roiv is the shiboy l'shul, so the bracha is shiboy l'shul. So they still have to be ma'ayin, because I would say you can't say it's a suffix, and it's efshar lizbared. It seems to me still that most of the companies are doing it by baking the bracha l'adam. The problem is, what's the bracha akroina? So if you have no choice, you make a bird in the foshes. But really, the lechatchila, you shouldn't be making a bird in the foshes, because the Rabbeinu Tam said that in his mind, because it's for chameshes minei adogan, the bracha achrona should be al adama val pri adama. But the Rabbeinu Tam said, I'm a supek. I never saw in the Gemara such a bracha al adama val pri adama. So they can't make alamicha because it wasn't mazonis. So you could only make alamich if you made first a mazonis. So you made now adoma. And the bracha chroin, if you have no choice, you make a better nefashos. But the MS is, the Rebbeinu Tam says maybe the bracha chroin is al adoma v'pri adoma. So it's a problem. So b'chatchila, it's nothing that if you're ready to eat a kazayis of cake. But the problem is, if you're really going to eat a kazayis, you're trying to eat the granola bar because you want to be healthy, and you don't want to eat the kazayis of cake. So it would be nice if there was a few companies that we could find that they actually cook or steam first the oats, and then it would take be a mazonis. So machai, you can make a mazonis alamichya. So if we have to find such a company that does that,
The thing is, some sort of the carbon coating happening 4 parts allows a certain part to be exposed that eventually will put them together. So that's what maybe the other even get together again says that close them, your vision is separated.
right? It's never here. It's never going to be this actus. Okay, Mamish, a minute. I want to tell you something. Someone called me this week about how to deal with a teenage child. It's not such a halachic shaila, but there's a bracha pratis that this week I was reading tshuva in Digris Moshe, and I just want to read it to you and translate it ois ba'ois, because it was about such a question. A mother was asking about how to handle a teenage daughter who is morosh chodesh. She's very moody. I don't know if is there a teenage daughter that's not moody, but this woman says that her daughter is a difficult daughter, and she's asking the Moshe Fein, she's a colonel of bracha, should tell her I ate a bracha what to do. So I just want to read it to you the way it is, without Taisof, and this will be for the third shiloh for today. He writes like this: Lamaris Clara, bracha v'sholom. You notice that in all the Rebbe's letters,
Well, yes.
when if he wrote to a woman, he wrote first bracha and shalom. But not shalom bracha, it's shiloh about saying shalom lisha. Anyway, he says, Av shein darki lichte tshuva sarak binyan divrei Torah, asher mukshim la'ezeb bnei adam, v'choysher shani yochel lahoshev b'chesed Hashem yizborach, shebazeh ani mechuyev lahoshev. He says, I usually, when I write tshuvas, people ask me shilas and halacha, and I'm mechuyev to answer, because if you know something in Torah and another Jew doesn't know, you're mechuyev to answer. Avo binyan tefillah bracha b'choyle ariyesh yidei shamayim be'beretz Yisrael harba shv'tilosan v'ader yitzur l'Hashem yizborach umo ani bazeh. What are you asking me? Avo machma shetzarcha godel me'oid. It's very often. You see, it's real. Shetzarcha godel me'oid. Ani meishiv, I'm answering you. Ki ani choshev k'fi shenikar me'amichtav shalcha shalach she'einach mesnayag ima k'fi haroya lefanah. You're not treating your daughter well. You have to treat her in a way that she always feels the love of her mother. You should talk to her in a sweet way. Calm. You shouldn't make demands from her, and you shouldn't have tinus on your daughter. Then she will come to trust you. When she'll trust you, she'll open up to you and she'll tell you what's on her heart. Because until then, she's not opening up to you because she doesn't trust you, because if she'll open up, she'll be vulnerable. And right away, you're going to have another time, and you're going to give her a jab here, and you're going to give her a comment here, a negative comment. Your daughter should never see you crying, because you're crying that you have such a ridiculous daughter. She should see you besimcha. ואני מצידי מבורך אז ביטך שהשם יזבורך ילפנה ויחלימנה ויחזקנה וישלח לו זיווג נוחן לפניו, וגם אויסך אני מבורך וכל המשפחה שיהיה לכם נחס ועונג ממנו מהחסר ויקר שתפתחי בהשם יזבורך ולקבל באהבה בזכוס, זה ישלח לכם כל הטוב והשלום לעולם ונחס גם from that daughter. ומבורך אתכם עומק הלב ומספלל להשם יזבורך. This is Oida Chaim. Okay, fine. If you want, I'll send it to parents. It's an Oida Chaim. It's a Siman. Oida Chaim Dalit. Oida Chaim Dalit. Siman Mem Zayin. Oira Chaim, Dalet Sin Mem Zayin. No commentaries. No commentaries necessary. Very short, very sweet, very, very, very sharp. Maybe shall helfen that every one of us, the Taka, should be Zoiche Taka to begadol our children. Teure Lachap al Maisim Toivim, and we should have Bonnet Chaim Zoin and Revicha, Bekulim Revicha, Sivach Simatoivim, Ashana Toivim Sukkah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, we have to limit the cures.
I'm sensing good.
Three matures. They don't have tetras.
Yeah, it's no, because why? Because
Who's the others are
Very separating. Get together. I'm going to. Oh no.
Okay, who else? Who watch those? No. So come on. Line up.